Alright, testing. Hello. Don't know if you can see that, but the sun is just disappearing. So we'll see how this video goes with the lighting. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you for all the positive feedback that everyone's left on the last video. It's very encouraging. I didn't know whether my videos would fall on deaf ears out there, so it seems to be that there's a lot of people who are getting value out of it and who are interested in the kind of stuff that I want to talk about. So I thought the second video would be entitled Timeless Wisdom for a Happy Life. So to kick that off, I want to talk about philosophy. Now, if you're anything like me, you would have had no idea what philosophy is, or maybe still don't know what philosophy is. Matter of fact, it's a word that I heard many a time growing up, but I actually never looked into what it actually is. I thought it was like poetry or musicals or something. I don't know. I thought it was something that would wouldn't apply to my life. I thought it would be something like, English literature or something, or history or whatever, and that there wouldn't really be much practical application. Let's say it like that. My cousin actually even studied philosophy in Germany, and I never really asked him what it was that he was actually studying. Like an idiot. If you ask me for the definition of philosophy, what I would say is that it's a collection of writings by the world's smartest people pertaining to the biggest questions in life. So, when you think philosophy, I straight away think of the Greek philosophers like Socrates or Plato or Aristotle. You might have heard those names before. So these guys were alive like 2,500 years ago. But the stuff that they were writing about and the things that they were preaching were related to topics like, justice or the meaning of life, or how to get over grief, or how to deal with betrayal, things like that. These are all topics that are still completely relevant in this day and age. And surprisingly, the stuff that these guys wrote completely holds up. In many cases, they were such wordsmiths that they were able to get a concept down to one sentence that would take me an entire paragraph or even a whole page to explain. I think philosophy can be very, very beneficial in giving you more pieces of the puzzle of what a kind of productive and life-affirming outlook on this existence really is. I mean, we're given very, very little information when we're born and as we grow up as to what is actually the purpose in life. What are you doing here? What is this whole thing? So I've actually found a lot of benefit in some of these writings just to kind of complete this picture just a little bit more. I mean, obviously, I don't know the meaning of life. We each make our own, but it does allow you to navigate life with a little bit more wisdom, so that you don't just fall into the same old traps, and you can get more happiness and success out of everyday situations. This philosophy or wisdom essentially can really help you anchor some of those positive mindsets. So anyway, I'm rambling now. I think it's important to note that who said what and when they said it doesn't really matter. I mean, some people love just focusing on the details of like, when was this built and who built it? When it comes to these statements, it really doesn't matter who said them, because especially when you look at consciousness as being a unified field, and that each of us are really just a differentiated little perspective of this one singular great consciousness, then really whoever said this is actually another version of you. So essentially it's you who said it. There you go. Mindfuck. What's really important is the essence of these writings, essentially, and more importantly, how you apply them to your own life. That's really the important thing. Without further ado, here are some great quotes that I find have been very beneficial to try to live by. And if you implement these, it will have a measurable impact on your happiness and your success. The first piece of wisdom, the first philosophical quote is, "Your merits should not be outward facing." Now, this was said about 2,000 years ago, and it's still very, 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 matter of fact, in this day and age, it's probably more applicable than it was back then. I mean, we now live in a day and age where it's the age of the ego, it's the age of the selfie, it's the age of everyone trying to clamp it to the top. What Seneca, the man who wrote these words, was trying to say was that merits, being the things that you measure yourself by, the things that you get your self-esteem from, should not be things that are outside of yourself. So it shouldn't be like, when I get to the top, when I'm number one, when I find that person and they finally tell me that I'm worth it, then I will be worth it. And a lot of us do this. I mean, you look at how people are raised, how I was raised as well. I didn't come from a family that was incredibly like driven to be, everyone's got to be number one, but I mean, a lot of families, you know, they'll put their kids into sports and stuff, and then it's like, you got to be the best, and then when you're the best, then you'll get your trophy, and then you'll be worth something. And it's like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with striving, but it's just a matter of where you get your self-worth from. And if you are running a program in your mind, if you have a belief system that is telling you that you get your self-worth from outside of you, well, then you will live by their praise and you will die by their criticisms. And it's a formula for always needing to seek to finally become truly happy, because you think it's outside of yourself. You think those merits that you need to attain are outside of yourself. So as Seneca said, your merits should not be outward facing. Another one that I like is, and I don't know who said this one, is live like no one else so you can live like no one else. And that one applies a lot, especially in my life as well these days. I mean, I travel full time and I make money through my laptop, setting up random online businesses. It's very unconventional, but the life that I want to lead is not really a life I've seen many people lead before me. To have this variation of what we all consider the normal life with the white picket fence and 2.5 children, I'm going to have to do things that aren't really normal, I guess, you know. I don't really go out on the weekends anymore and just get drunk and whatever that everyone does, you know, hooray, it's Friday. Instead, I'll work on Saturday nights right now. I'm not going to do that all my life, but right now I work on Saturdays, I work on Sundays, and usually I take Mondays off when there's no queues anywhere. It's a nice mantra to remind you that if you want things that the people around you haven't got, then you might have to do things that they're all not doing. It just kind of makes you okay with your strange way of doing things, that others might kind of look at you like that, but being internally referenced, having your merits on the inside, you should know that, well, what I'm trying to attain is something different to these people, so I'm going to have to go and do different things differently to them. And that's what this quote says: live like no one else, so you can live like no one else. The next one is from Socrates, which was written 500 before Christ, so like 2,500 years ago. And it said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. This one's very valuable because I find that when things aren't going your way, or if there are things that you want to change in your life, it's easy to just get upset, to just look at what was the cause of why things went wrong, and then let's just focus on this and let's just start battling that, and that's like, oh, the government sucks, so let's keep fighting the government. It's like, well, maybe you should try to think of ways to, like in that example of like not being satisfied with the current government, for instance, maybe rather than you getting in there and trying to fight through it, sure, it's good that some people do that, maybe instead you should think about like, how can I figure out a way that we can leverage technology and the internet so that everyone can vote from their telephones, and then create a whole new system, and then it'll be totally transparent, and you'll see the actual state of affairs of what each country and each individual member of that country actually wants, and then you will completely overhaul the way that we elect officials. So that would be an example of building the new rather than fighting the old. So Socrates, that guy, goddamn. All right, next one. This one is from Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of, I believe he was the Roman emperor, often hailed as the greatest Roman emperor, and he spent many, many years basically on these crusades, battles, etc., and he kept a diary of all his own thoughts. And he himself, he was a Stoic philosopher. Stoicism is a school of philosophy that occupies itself with perfecting the art of living. So it's all about not just reacting to shit, but kind of, I mean, there's many aspects to this, but One of them, for instance, has to do with rehearsing in your mind before things happen. What will it be like when that happens? So that when that situation actually comes about, you'll be in a different state where you will be able to react accordingly. One example is if you're driving to work in the morning and you run into traffic. A lot of people get road rage and they get really angry and they can't believe that there's fucking traffic. But what is really likely to happen when you're driving in the morning is that you'll run into traffic. So if you instead wake up in the morning and you go, well, you know what, on the way to work, I'm probably going to run into traffic. Someone's probably going to bump into the back of my car. They probably won't even stop and they'll just speed off and I won't have their details. And then when I'll get to work, I'll be late and my boss is going to get pissed off at me. That's probably what's going to happen. Now, he's not saying that you should focus on this all day because then you might manifest these conditions, but to ponder it once or twice or 3 times and think about how would this make me feel and how would I react and what will be the best way to react is a stoic way of basically looking into the future, essentially, briefly, preparing what the right way to react would be. And then, you know what, when you're driving to work and you run into traffic or someone bumps into you, rather than going, I can't believe this, blah, 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 you'll just go, oh, there's that traffic. Oh, there's that dickhead who ran into me. You know, rather than just being completely taken off guard because you thought that everything was going to go smooth as it's supposed to, which it doesn't always. Anyway, I got off topic. The quote from Marcus Aurelius is, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Now, this kind of speaks to my first video that I uploaded last week, which is all about creating your own reality by managing your thoughts. So he's once again saying the key to happiness comes from thinking. And here's another great one to go along with that, which is from Seneca, which is, I mean, this is one of those examples where he literally got a half a page of text down into 8 words. And it is, not happy he who thinks himself not so. So if you yourself aren't thinking happy, then you're not going to be happy, essentially. Not happy he who thinks himself not so. There's not another word that you could drop off that sentence. And the last but not least, this quote, and I don't know who it's from, but it's amazing, is the acquisition of knowledge is not as important as the application of knowledge. And I like this one because this one applies to me a lot as well, because sometimes you want to just keep learning and just keep reading more and whatever, and you think, because I've read it once now, you know, I did what I was meant to do with that information. But really often it comes down to repetition, and it comes down to actually applying these things. Otherwise, they just kind of go in one ear and one out the other. So yeah, he's just saying, you know, put your money where your mouth is. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. You know, don't just read about mind control, but then don't actually watch your own thoughts, you know. Maybe write yourself little notes on your hand, maybe put a post-it down, maybe take a meditation class, I don't know. It's just all about applying the knowledge so that it actually sticks, because you've got to keep refiring those neural networks in your brain in order to really solidify that information. You know that if you learn someone's name and you don't say that name again within 12 hours, that neural net you formed in your brain relating to that person's name actually just dissolves again. So your brain doesn't want to hold on to everything. So you have to basically trick yourself to being really into the information as you're reading it, and then make sure that you revisit it again very soon. That's really the secret to knowledge, well, memory. All right, so there you have it. That's some simple and distilled wisdom passed down through the ages, 2,500 years, still completely applicable. You know, make sure you're not searching for approval on the outside all day long. Make sure that you're actually putting the knowledge that you're learning into application. You're actually using it. Don't just fight the old, build the new. You know, don't just be a consumer, but also be a creator. And yeah, live like no one else so you can live like no one else. All right, there you have it. Hopefully you got something out of this. And let's see how this one goes, and I'll think up the next one. Thank you very much.